Chances are, if you're watching this, you've already seen the viral video that I'm about to show you, but I think that this serves as a really important example that demonstrates just how fundamentally broken our system is. So to give you the context, Russell Mokhiber of Common Dreams reports Lissa Lucas traveled the 100 miles from her home in Cairo, West Virginia, to the state capitol in Charleston Friday to testify against an oil and gas industry-sponsored bill, HB 4268, that would allow companies to drill on minority mineral owners' land without their consent. Now, she had the opportunity to finally speak, and she called out corruption of state lawmakers in a way that I've never seen before. And their response is very telling. So this is what happened.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Lissa Lucas, followed by Scott Wyndham.
It's Lissa Lucas. And first, I'd just like to say that no jobs will be created by this. If we could get a guarantee of jobs, that would be great. I'd also like to point out that the people who are going to be speaking in favor of this bill are all going to be paid by the industry, and the people who are going to be voting on this bill are also often paid by the industry. For example, and I have to keep it short simply because the public only gets a minute 45, while lobbyists can throw a gala at the Marriott with whiskey and wine and talk for hours to the delegates. So to keep it short, on the Judiciary Committee, Charlotte Lane, about $10,000 from gas and oil interests, including AEP, Marathon, First Energy, Dominion, EQT, and I could go on. Next, let's talk about John Schott from Mercer. First Energy, $2,000, Appalachian Power, $2,000, Steptoe & Johnson, that's a gas and oil law firm, $2,000, Consol Energy, $1,000, EQT, $1,000, and I could go on. Now let's talk about Jason Harshbarger.
Ms. Lucas, we ask no personal comments be made. If you want to talk about
this is not personal comments.
it is a personal comment, and I'm going to call you out of order if you're talking about individuals on the committee. So if you would just address the bill. If not, I'll ask you to please step down.
Jason Harshbarger took $3,500, about 40% of his money comes. People deserve someone who are going to fight for people and not corporations. And if it's a personal tax commission public information, I'm very sorry that this is one of the states coming for you. Montana Secretary.
The next speaker would be Julie Archer.
So clearly, they all have something to hide. You don't escort someone out when they only have a minute to speak anyway, unless you're embarrassed. But clearly, she was exposing all of them as sellouts, saying that they only support this bill because they've taken contributions from the oil and gas industry. And this is what she said after she was removed. Quote, as I tried to give my remarks at the public hearing this morning on HB 4268 in defense of our constitutional property rights, I got dragged out of the House of Chambers, Lucas said. Why? Because I was listing out who has been donating to delegates on the Judiciary Committee. So the way that she held those state legislators accountable is a model that should be replicated at the national level, because chances are, I think 9 times out of 10, if a politician is against something that the majority of the people support, they're probably taking contributions from the industry. That's usually a safe bet. So the fact that she listed their specific contributions, I would like to see this in Congress. I would like Bernie Sanders to say, well, look, the reason why Republicans are voting for this tax bill is because we have Orrin Hatch. He took X amount of dollars from this billion-dollar company, from this multi-trillion-dollar industry. This is a really effective way, I think, to just name and shame people. And yes, it can be divisive. You're name dropping, but we have to do that so that way they do feel ashamed of the contributions they're taking, to be ashamed of the just brazen corruption. I mean, we saw just after the tax plan was passed, Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, got a huge payday, millions of dollars from the Kochs. So they encouraged lawmakers to pass the tax reform plan that Donald Trump was pushing. Once they passed it, they got a big payday, and they were expecting that payday. So this level of corruption is sickening, and if we don't stop it, if we don't actually get campaign finance reform, we're not going to have a democracy for much longer. If you can even argue, if you want to even argue that we live in a democracy currently, I don't think we have a democracy anymore. In fact, we were literally just downgraded to a flawed democracy. So I don't know what it's going to take short of a Bernie Sanders-style political revolution to get money out of politics, but I think emulating this strategy that Lissa set for us is a way to make sure that we hold elected officials accountable. Now, Lissa actually is running for the state legislature in West Virginia, and I looked up her policy positions, and at face value, it doesn't necessarily seem like she's a staunch progressive, but she probably is because she actually supported Bernie Sanders in 2016, but you won't really see a mention of Medicare for All or anything like that, and I think that this is because she's choosing to focus more heavily on state and local issues, which makes sense since she's running for her state legislature. But let's consider for a second, hypothetically, that she was against Medicare for All. I would still respect her knowing that she's against it for principled reasons. Is she wrong? Yes. And again, I'm hypothesizing. I'm not saying that she's against Medicare for All because I don't know. But if she were against Medicare for All, well, if she's against it just because she's personally against it because she thinks that she prefers a public option, I would respect her position knowing that she's not being funded by the health insurance industry. But a reason why, for example, the Democratic Party, the reason why they're against Medicare for All is because they take millions upon millions of dollars collectively from the health insurance industry, and they know they're not going to get that money if they vote for a Medicare for All system because that existentially threatens health insurance companies. So to take a principled position on policy, I can respect that even if I disagree with you, because you're having a real debate about the issues and the merits of policies. But to accept a position specifically because you were funded by an industry that benefits from the policy position you're taking, that's a quid pro quo, that's corruption, and it's unacceptable, and I don't respect you. So what she was doing, again, was a really effective way of naming and shaming, and if they had nothing to hide, they wouldn't have kicked her out. So kudos to Lissa. I think that she's a hero for doing what she did here, and the fact that this is now going viral, I mean, it just shows that people are paying attention. The fact that it attracted this many eyeballs to the video, it gives me hope that people are aware of the things that are happening, even at the state level, and just how corruption and money in politics really is a noxious virus that is making politicians not care about what you want because they're beholden to their corporate donors. So kudos to Lissa.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.